All right, here we go. I am Mr. Lugo, and these are your first Unit 1 notes. I'm going to roll through the PowerPoint. In Part 1, I'm going to focus on purpose of the government, questions, some basic questions of the government, and a little bit about the theories, democratic theories of government that exist. It's as good a place as any to begin. So, got to start with government itself, definition, and we can actually start with some of the fundamental questions of government. In order to understand government, we got to first understand some of the basic questions that go along with government. What is government? Why is it here? What's it actually supposed to do? And finally, you want to keep in mind how a government carries out its responsibilities, its duties to the people, dictate what type of government system it is, and that causes people to make different choices and start different governments. So let's take a look at some of these things. Government, first and foremost, is the institutions that make policies that affect every aspect of a society. What's tough for us right now is we don't fully understand what a policy is or what institutions are. But I can tell you this much: the people, or at least bodies of people that help make policy, are Congress, the court system, the president or the executive branch, and the bureaucracy. These would be the institutions, and what they're doing, policy, is the rules that we live by. Our government system is called a republic, a democratic republic, because of the way our institutions make the rules that we live by and what say we have in them. Policy making and government move down to the lower levels through an idea called federalism. From the national government, it goes from the federal government down to the state government and then down to the local government, as you can see here. So according to the publisher of your textbook, which is absolutely atrocious and I wouldn't use it at all, according to them, the government shapes everyone's life, so we have to take time to understand how they make decisions and what's the outcome of their decisions. In other words, we have to understand the process by which they make rules, and we have to understand the impact of those rules, the reality of them. There are two basic guiding themes really from your textbook, and that is, how should we govern as a society, and what's government supposed to do? So we'll try and keep that in mind. For me, I have some reoccurring themes that we're going to take a look at in this course. Number one that you really should pay attention to is, ideally, where are we? And what's the reality of our democratic system? Finally, there's a set of questions you should always keep in mind. How does our government work? What does our government actually do? Does our government do what the people want it to do? Because overall, don't lose sight that we're supposed to be a democratic system. The comparison of ideal and real and the set of questions that you see here at number 2 are things that I'm going to focus on as opposed to your textbook. So let's get this rolling. Let's start out with government. No matter what type of government system you have, all governments have 5 basic functions. It does not matter if you're a democracy. It doesn't matter if you are a communist country, a dictatorship, or a socialistic type of country. Government exists to carry out 5 functions at the very least. First and foremost, provide a national defense. You're supposed to protect the people from invaders. Usually you see this through a military. They're supposed to provide public service. And what do I mean by public service? These are the things that people aren't supposed to be denied, that should be shared. Think of it like a roadway system. It doesn't benefit anyone financially to go out and build a road that nobody pays for, but everybody's going to use. So this would be a public service, and we'll get more into that as we move forward, because it involves politics as well. How much of a public service should government provide? Number 3, all governments are supposed to preserve order. They have to keep society calm. They provide structure for us so that we're not a bunch of wackos. How do they do this? They have rules. They have ways to enforce the rules. You know them as cops. Government is supposed to socialize the youth, or the young people within their society as well. So that's the 4th function of government, no matter what. This is how come We have public education, free public education. Finally, although not originally a function, government couldn't operate properly on a large scale without collecting taxes. It's a necessary evil. It's not a reason that people form government in the first place. They don't say, hey, let's make a government so they can take our money. But it's an accepted principle that goes along with a government. You have to take the bad with all of the good, is what it comes down to. So right now we're looking at the purposes of government, why people form it. One of those first three questions that you saw, fundamental question number 3, how does government carry out its duties? This is an extremely complicated question and really leads us down the path of ideal versus real, because there is no easy way to communicate. But overall, in a government system, politics is the form of communication. Politics, according to your textbook, is the process by which we select our governmental leaders and what policies they pursue. Historian and writer Laswell defines politics as the struggle over who gets what, when, and how. It's a broad definition, but it's actually a better place to start than what your textbook says, because it leaves things open-ended and forces us to ask questions about politics. Who's talking? Who's going to get what? When are they going to get it? How's it going to be provided? Will the government provide it? Will the government provide it through taxes? Do people have to provide it on their own? What do politics have to do with government carrying out their duties? Well, politics are the communication system through which government works. So we pick our leaders through politics. You know this because you have to see the campaign commercials on TV. Politics convinces us to go with one candidate or another. Politics are how we create policy. It's how we talk in government. Government carries out its responsibilities, its duties, through its communication system. We move forward a little bit. We're going to move straight to our theories of democracy, democratic government theories. And what we're really looking at here are a traditional democratic theory, and we're going to look at some contemporary theories of democracy as well. You don't want to use the textbook definition here of democracy. For them, it's stated right here: a means of selecting policymakers and of organizing government so that policy represents and responds to the public's preferences. This definition is atrocious. Democracy is simply a form of government in which the supreme authority of that government, the ultimate authority, comes from the people and rests with the people. That's a democracy. So traditionally, democratic theory, or the idea of democracy, has a couple of principles. What are these principles? I have them listed below here. When you define the democratic system, you got to have these things. This is traditional democracy. But do we have a traditional democracy here in the United States? Absolutely not. We have a democratic republic. So we take this traditional theory and twist it just a little bit, right? According to Robert Dahl, commonly referred to as Bobby Dahl in the world of academia, the first criteria is equality in voting. The second one is effective participation. The third one's enlightened understanding. The fourth one is citizen control of the agenda. And the fifth one is inclusion.